There is a popular belief in the world that artists are dreamers. They don't fit into any form, they don't fit into any norm, they're always floating in the clouds. But today, I have someone here who has a background in art, design, business, and management. I have Aditi here, who's a textile artist who narrates beautiful cultural stories with her amazing art. And let's find out how the combination of all these rigid structural elements and the art and design flow has come together in her life. Hi, Aditi.
Hi, Vino. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction.
No, I always wondered, when I look at your profile, you are about art and design and also business and management and entrepreneurship, and which generally people think don't go well together. So I want to first ask you how all these things that you have learned as education has shaped you as a person that you are now.
I love that question. I think a lot of these things make sense when we move backwards. Like if we're looking at our lives in retrospect, it makes a lot more sense. But in the moment, I didn't really know, oh, I'm doing this because it's going to help me in this way. It's more so like I was just following my passions in what was bringing me the most joy. And it organically kind of shaped the way that my life has turned out. In terms of art, like it started very, very young. Some of my oldest memories are me drawing with my chacha, like my dad's younger brother. And growing up, like we would play around the house and we would draw together. And I would also be drawing on the walls. I'd be making things with my mother and my grandmother. They were both amazing with textiles. It's a tradition in so many Indian households. So many women across cultures, actually, they make things together. They kind of bond through the power of textiles. Again, in that moment, or in those moments when I was growing up and making these things, I didn't really realize it's something that is going to play such an important part in my life. And also, like, I knew that I wanted to be an artist from a young age, but I didn't know it would be textiles that I work with. So it kind of just, as like life happened, I just started navigating in terms of what felt the most joyous and aligned to me. And it just so happened that I went to study in the UK for my foundation program, which is where we get introduced to lots of different types of art and design principles. And at that time, I wanted to be an illustrator. So my main thing was I want to tell stories. I have a lot of like things to share, and I wanted to be an animator or like an illustrator. So very, very graphic kind of stories that hit people very deeply. So for example, I grew up watching a lot of animated films, and I just wanted to capture those kind of emotions. And during the foundation program, I was going through different types of art and design principles. And textiles was one of those things that they introduced. So one of the weeks we had a textile week. And I didn't even realize that it's something we could study, because so many women in my family were doing that, but it wasn't something that they would consider as a career. So that really opened my eyes. I was like, oh, this is something I can do. And there's so much emotion, at least for me, growing up, making these things, so much emotion that I was able to portray in ways that I probably wouldn't have been able to do through animation or illustration. So very quickly I switched to textiles, and that's how that started. And then I moved to Dubai straight after my bachelor's. And here there was barely an art market back then. This was in 2015. And as I started looking for like how to basically live here, I wasn't really sure. So I went into a business program, which is what good Indian girls do when they don't have anything to do. They don't know like what to do with their life. So they're like, okay, let's study business. I also come from a business family. So if we look at the mother and like the feminine line in my family, that influenced my textiles. And then the paternal line, my dad and like a lot of the men in my family are business people. So that influenced me going into business as well. So it just happened very organically that these things just came. I think I was trying not to follow scripts. I was just trying to do what felt right for me. And I just ended up here.
Oh my God, Aditi, actually, there are a lot of common points that are coming across when you were narrating your story, talking about learning animation and then, textiles and then deciding to study when you have nothing to do, there are a lot of common points that we need to discuss.
Let's do it.
Okay. Also, you have also lived in different countries, like in the UK, in India, in Dubai. How do you think living in these geographical locations have evolved you in a certain way?
I think it's so beautiful because when we are in the same kind of community or we are around the same kind of people, we think similarly. People really influence us. What time you eat, what you're eating. There are little things every day that we don't consider how much they impact our ways of thinking and living. So I'll give you a very small example. Growing up in India, most people are eating, I'm generalizing. India is a big country, but most people are eating very late. Usually people are eating around 3 o'clock, at least the people around me. 3 p.m. is like a common lunchtime. 9:30, 10 is like a common dinner time. And you're sleeping right after. There are so many things that does to the body in terms of how healthy we feel. I learned all of this when I went to the UK. My first year of university, all of my flatmates were from China, Hong Kong, all from different parts. And the girls from China and Hong Kong were so healthy. They would eat dinner around 6 p.m. And just to be hanging out with them, I started eating earlier as well. And in the beginning, I would eat a snack later. But then I started eating less and less at night. And that totally shifted my sleeping pattern. It shifted so many things. So it's a very small example, but I learned so many things about different ways of living and thinking. So this is a very minor, like everyday example, but also how people think and what they feel like is possible in life. Different philosophies, so many things are different, and it just makes us more worldly. It makes us more open to different types of people. And I think after a point we start seeing that actually, like physically or like in the manifest world, like things look different, but underneath we're all just we're just human. So that really, it became really beautiful for me to like start seeing why people are acting in different ways and, managing or like trying to figure out different ways of living in different parts of the world.
Amazing. It kind of broadens your perspective. And as you said, in the end, we are all humans and we fight for things, imaginary things that human beings have created, right?
Well put.
Like we were just talking about Sapiens before starting to record. That's what it says. Human beings always fight for things that were created by humans, like borders, money, power. Nothing exists in the physical world, but we fight for them. Anyway, so talking about inspiration, all your collections are also inspired by these geographical locations, right? By these cities or by the region. Why? And how do you choose these locations?
Yeah, again, it started making sense in retrospect, but in the moment it was like, I'd lived in India until I was 18, and then I went to the UK to study. And while I was there, I started doing trips without my family for the first time. I started learning as I was traveling. So I also had the opportunity to travel to Europe, and that's where some of my collections started. So I went to this gorgeous place called Budapest, and they had these beautiful churches, like the tops of the buildings. I don't know if you've studied, you're also inspired by architecture in your collections, and I've seen like the geometrical patterns and things, right? Yeah. So in Budapest, they have these beautiful tiled roofs, and it basically looks like a pattern. So I was like, how do we translate this into my work? So that's how that project started. And then I went to Thailand to teach English, I think in my second year of university. And there, again, the beautiful buildings with like such intricate patterns carved into the stones and the wood. And I wanted to transform a lot of that and bring it into my work. So it was more what I'm learning in these places and how do I pay homage to some of these places and how it has transformed me, because every time I take a trip, I feel I come back different. So how do I pay homage to those places in my work?
Amazing. But when you go to a city, it impacts you in several ways, right? The food there, the people there, what happens there, and how you travel there, the things that you see. Out of all these things, when you come back from a city, how do you choose to go deeper? And what is the research? There is a lot of history for every single city that we go to. and that also plays a part. So what is the kind of research that you do, and how do you narrow down? Because your process seems very similar to mine. It's about architecture, getting inspired by the places you go to, getting inspired by culture, and translating it into fabric. The story is similar, but I make fashion, you make art. That's the at the last point we kind of deviate into two different roads.
Yeah.
So I want to understand, when you get inspired by a place, how do you narrow it down? Do you do research? Do you do mood boards? How do you do that?
Yeah, I think all of that. So in the beginning, there's just so much, and then I start narrowing it down, and it happens organically. So I think whenever I try to control the creative process, it just escapes me. So I try to let it happen with ease. But usually while I'm there as well, I'm usually sketching. Like I'll probably sit in a cafe in front of a building and then I'll sketch the building. I'll start deconstructing patterns. It happens very, very organically. I don't push it. And then I also go on, once in a while, I'll go on tours. It depends. It happens again. I'll meet people. I usually stay in a hostel. So I'll meet people and then they'll be like, oh, have you been there? And then we'll go there and then that'll be an experience and then that will lead to something else. So it's a very intuitive approach. And I usually take a lot of notes while I'm there as well on my phone, or I write them down. And once I come back, then I start researching deeper into some of those things. So, for example, I'll highlight certain aspects of, okay, this is the building that I was really interested in, or this was really interesting to me, or there's a concept that emerges. So, for example, I did a collection on Bali, and that was a really interesting experience for me because Bali is one of the only parts of the entire country of Indonesia which is Hindu in a predominantly Muslim country. So, and also having grown up in India, again, we have Muslims, we have Hindus, we have everything in India. But the way that these religious or spiritual aspects show up, especially in buildings and also in the way people interact with each other, is slightly different but very familiar. So I was very keen on understanding, and especially if you go there, people are asking you like, what's your religion? What do you... So they were very excited to meet Indian people as well. So I started researching more about that. And then also a lot of the ancient architecture has similarities to, say, temple architecture in India. So they follow Vastu, for example. There are a lot of squares and shapes and things that really inform the way that spaces are harmonized, or that's the belief system. So I started looking at that. I researched much more. And actually through that, I learned a lot about my ancient, or like my ancestors, history, yes. So it's very organic. It's hard to like put a lot of these things in boxes, even though like my final pieces look very geometrical and very, structured. But the process that leads to that is not always so clear cut.
Okay, so it's a lot of notes, lot of sketches, lots of stories coming back to your studio, and then you kind of put everything together and make something out of it, and it predominantly ends up as geometry. There is again a similarity because it's the same for me. I always end up making things in a geometrical way. I don't know why. That's how my brain is also wired. I also have seen you speaking about sacred geometry being a constant source of inspiration for all your work. Can you please go deeper on that? What is sacred geometry and why is it influencing you again and again?
I think it's influencing me again and again because I'm seeing it again and again. So even in Islamic art and architecture, you see a lot of sacred geometry. So a lot of mosaics, for example, or like Islamic patterns are made using geometry. There are different belief systems as to why that happens. One of them is that they say that they don't want to use figures because that might make us feel attached to that figure as a god. So they're trying to portray God or Allah or the divine in geometrical shapes. And then similarly, those shapes are also used in Hindu architecture, temple architecture. It's used in churches. So a lot of these spiritual traditions, and I usually look at these spiritual traditions because those are the things that we still hold on to. A lot of culture has changed very fast in a lot of ways, but spirituality is a lot slower to change. So we can study the past much deeper if we look at spirituality. So for me, I think it's very exciting to see, oh, what are the connections? I get very excited about how do I find connections between these different parts of the world. And ultimately, it's also, I think I'm trying to understand myself. I'm trying to understand why people are the way they are, why I am the way I am, and how can we bring more people together, bridge like cultural divides, because there's so much, that we can find that's different about each other, but there's so much that we can celebrate in terms of similarity as well. So that's how usually it starts with sacred geometry. I don't know if I answered the question.
It's just a feeling, I guess.
Yeah.
Right?
Like, so for example, like if you look at a square, in Vastu principles, a square is a perfect shape because all four sides are the same. It means that if you create a space that is a square, it's shaped like a square, there's harmony within the space because the air is flowing very harmoniously. All four sides are the same as well. So they believe that when we do that, then people who are within that space are going to feel harmonious within themselves. Similar principles are there in Islamic architecture where you see a lot of arches. That is
balance?
Yeah, balance and harmony as well. So I think we're all trying to seek a similar feeling of harmony, peace, love, connection, and it's expressed in different forms. So for me, it's about studying those forms.
Yeah, even symmetry for that matter, I guess. It kind of gives a sense of balance, stability, steadiness. It's good to play with asymmetry or, modern elements and everything. But somewhere even I feel that, playing with symmetry has been always there in every culture.
Yeah.
Right? In terms of architecture or in anything, even in nature, yeah? How much symmetry we are seeing and how many, as you said, all the sacred geometry, it all comes from, I think, the nature. People picked that up and then started making art out of it, and it's still going on. I have also heard you speak about internal globalization when you explain your process, and about duality when you explain. I come across you speaking a lot about the spiritual aspects when you speak about your process. I want to know more about it.
For me, it's just going through the motions of going to different countries. A lot of people just travel for the sake of traveling. I'm not collecting those. I'm really seeing how I'm transforming in those spaces. So if I'm going to a country in Asia, I'm going to eat the food from there. I'm going to interact with the locals there. And as I said, I come back changed every time. Like there are parts of me that have transformed during that trip. So I'm just going through a process of like shedding a lot of narratives about myself, holding on to, because I think we hold on very strongly to these ideas and notions we create about who we are. A lot of times it's attached to a place that we've come from. And of course, I'm Indian and I come from there. And it has shaped me because I lived there for such a long time. At the same time, every other place that I go to and every other interaction I have has also shaped me. And I can allow myself to embrace those parts as well. So it's about that continuous transformation of myself. And I hope that it expresses in my work as well, because how boring would it be if we're just static?
Interesting. Okay, whatever we speak about, spiritual aspect of making art, traveling to different places, being a creative person, everything, and you have a background in business and management and marketing. Tell me how an artist and why an artist should have an entrepreneurial mindset.
Yeah, I first want to distinguish between an artist and a professional artist. So I think most people are artists. Okay, like most of us grow up drawing, or we have at least touched color pencils once in our lives, right? Like we have created something. There is an artistic fire in most people. We have creative things that we want to express. And the people who are continuously doing that, I think they should call themselves artists. I don't think, there should be, I meet a lot of people who are like, oh, I don't have a degree, I don't have this. Okay, if you create things, you're an artist. So that's one thing. And then if you're selling work and even if you sold one piece, then you're a professional artist. And in that sense, I think entrepreneurial mindset and business skills are extremely important, because firstly, it gives you confidence that you can sell your work, and then you learn how to do that. So how do you price your work? What are the ways you negotiate with people? What are the opportunities that are present to you? How do you find those opportunities? All of those things I think are not necessarily taught in school or even in art school. How do you create a portfolio? How do you answer open calls? All these things are, I learned so many of these skills by going to business school, that I think it just gave me a leg up. And I think most people in any industry should have some kind of business skills or knowledge, even if they're not going to university. Like, there are so many courses online. There's YouTube stuff online. There's so many free books. If we want the knowledge, it's very available. I think it's crucial to learn how to sell.
But, as I mentioned earlier, the general perception about artists is that, they are little eccentric. They don't really care about money or material things. They are into their own world. And do you think so? You meet a lot of artists.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if that's what they're happy with, great. I'm not going to tell them what to do. Like, if that feels right to them, then wonderful. But if they want to sell, then we have to think a little bit differently, right? I think there is a notion of, broke artist, or like someone who's, very tattered or whatever. Like, there are these notions. And if someone fits and they're happy there, great. But if there is something inside that's feeling not right when you give away a piece without getting what you want in return, then we have to think, like, we have to shift our mindset, right? I think it's Einstein who said, like, if you keep doing the same thing and expecting different results, you're crazy. Like, if you want to have a different result, you have to change your mindset. You have to do something different. And I think there's also a lot of like stigma around the word selling or money. So also we have to look at, like, what do we have certain wounds? Do we have certain things that are blocking us from getting to that abundance? Because if we are bringing joy to somebody, if our work is in their home or wherever they're putting it, and that's bringing them joy, then of course there should be an exchange. That we should also be paid for that. We should also feel joyful, right? But if there's a feeling of like parting with our work and not feeling good about it, then there is something that we have to look at. So, I mean, for me also, it is a journey. I'm still learning. It's not like I have everything figured out. But I think as time has gone on and I've become more comfortable in my skin and in my career and who I am as a person, I understand that my work has value, and in exchange, I should get value in return.
And when you speak about your work, I hear a lot of spiritual words coming in, the vocabulary, spiritual vocabulary coming in. You think art, psychology, and spirituality and philosophy, you think they all belong to each other? Are they connected in any way?
In my world, yes.
How?
I think, so every individual, of course, has like their own, it's like we're all puzzles and we have different parts of the puzzle. And, as life goes on, we have different interests that come together. My puzzle, yes, all of those definitely fit in. I've been studying philosophy for about 10 years. So actually it happened once I moved to Dubai, I got extremely interested in Indian culture. Suddenly, it's like we have to leave home to suddenly be like, oh, there's so much beauty back home, right? I actually, after a tough, let's say, something happened, and I just Googled meditation, and I went to this retreat, and I just like literally ran away to the mountains in India. 10-day silent retreat. Most people might have heard about it.
Vipassana types?
It was sort of like Vipassana, but it was in a Buddhist monastery.
Oh, okay.
And it's a little bit less strict. I've done Vipassana since then. And Vipassana, you don't have any books. You don't have anything to read, write. It's literally just you and your mind. This is also silent, but we had a library, beautiful books. And I love reading. So it was beautiful. It was mostly like spiritual and science-based books. But I had that, and I also had notebooks, and I took all my like watercolors and different things. So I was like extremely creative during that time. There was no external input. It's so crazy. It's the first time I experienced where nobody was telling me anything. Like nobody's telling me, oh, you should eat at this time, or you should do this, or whatever else. I was literally able to talk to myself so much more, like go deep within myself in those 10 days. Things really shifted. So since then, since 2015, I've been studying spirituality and philosophy. And I think I've learned much more about myself and through that the world, because we actually perceive the world not as it is, but as who we are. It's a reflection. Whatever we see is a reflection of who we are. So, for example, you can have the same chai in 2 days, but if one day your mood is off, it's going to taste worse than the other day when your mood is really good. So, yeah, I went into a long tangent. But in my world, yes, all of those are connected and they definitely inform each other.
Okay. So, okay, now I'm going to deviate a bit. What is your spiritual practice? Like, do you do something before creating art, or do you do certain things every day to keep yourself sane in this insane world?
Beautifully put. Yes, I think we have to have rituals that work for us, right? It can be different for every individual. For me, over time, I've created my own kind of ritual in the morning that's similar to the 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma. So are you familiar with it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the 20-20-20
Failing
rule.
miserably.
Really? Tell me.
Yeah, I'm failing miserably.
That's okay. I think every day doesn't have to look similar. But as long as we are, consistent over time. Like, of course, there are days I miss also. We are women, like we have monthly cycles. There are things that, it doesn't always... but for me, it's a version of that. My routine is about an hour and a half to 2 hours in the morning. So I wake up and I do yoga-based asana practice for about 30 minutes. And it differs. So some days it's 10 minutes, okay? Like today it was 15 minutes. I couldn't do more than that. But I try to do 30. And then I do some kind of meditation or journaling. It depends on the day. So I like to have schedules, but I like to keep it flexible. Because we are human beings. Like I think only robots can do like something static or like similar every day. And then it's become a lot longer. I consume new content. So it's either podcasts or books or other things where people who, are inspirational, I consume their content because I think my mind is just much more open in the morning to receive that. Yeah.
Amazing. And then you start your day.
And then I start.
Is there a end of day ritual?
End of day ritual, I turn off all devices 1 hour before I go to bed. Okay. All devices, I don't want to check, or like basically I got into this habit after my first retreat in India, where I just realized I need some time where I'm not receiving any information from other people. I'm just listening to what's happening inside. So during that 1 hour, I will read or I will journal. And some days I will just sit there and stare at the ceiling. Sometimes I need that.
Aditi, this sounds amazing. But, in reality, this world is filled with distractions, right? It's full of distractions. And it keeps distracting. How do you shut yourself off from all these, I would say, temptations? Because there is a lot of entertainment around you, a lot of information around you. Like, open your phone and you are done for many hours. You can sit with the device for the whole day as well. But how can someone detach, especially to be an artist, right? You need that me time, as you said. You need to consume what you're supposed to consume, not everything that is shown in front of your eyes, right?
Yeah.
How to cut the other distractions and how to be focused when you are an artist. That's very important.
Yeah, I think it's over time just noticing. It's just like about awareness. See what is actually happening. If you're spending that much time scrolling, what is the result of that? Like how many hours actually, if you actually tally, like, oh, today I spent this many. And if you have, most phones can, I think, tell you like this much time you're spending on which apps, right? I started locking Instagram. I've deleted some of the apps from my phone, so I don't have them. All my notifications are off except WhatsApp. I don't give my WhatsApp to most people. My Instagram, I only check when I open it. So I don't get notifications. So I'm not tempted to check it. I am tempted most of the time, but it's become easier. And I also put a 15-minute, the lock thing. I don't know what it's called.
Okay.
You can put like time limits on different apps. So I've done that on Instagram. Most days I do end up still, you can change. I don't remember what these things are called. You can see
That's
how
okay.
technologically.
No. Even I don't know. I didn't even know that these things exist, so it's okay.
Okay, now you know.
Yeah.
I hope it helps. Yeah.
Okay.
So all of that, I think, but also like noticing over time how much more space my brain had when I started limiting my time spent on these apps.
Also, I have some friends who have told me that, they get their design ideas during meditation. Do you get it too?
Yeah, because I think it's about ease. Like this is something I've been seeing a lot more. When my mind is cluttered or when I'm stressed out, I cannot work. Like I cannot think. I can't. So there needs to be a lot of space and ease created within my body, especially when we are meditating. My breath becomes more relaxed. I feel more like I'm able to receive. So the ideas start coming. So it's kind of like if you think of a container, if there's already so much inside, you can't fill it with new things. You have to remove some things to be able to fill it. And that's what meditation does for me. Like all the clutter kind of just gets released, or I become a little bit more relaxed and focused, and things just organically come.
Because, I have a friend, a very dear friend. She paints predominantly animals. She says, what is the next animal that's going to be on the canvas? She gets it as a visual when she meditates. So that's why I wanted to check with you that whether it's her thing or is it a normal thing that people get their inspiration or, get a visual of what it is going to be when they meditate.
I've had some of these ideas come to me while I've been in retreat, but it's been in like an extended period of time where I've just been meditating. But in my everyday, it's too short usually for it to come. But it does put my like mind and body at ease before I get into work mode. Yeah, so I think it just depends.
And how do you think this city has helped you evolve? Because Dubai, when you came, as you said, it was not a buzzing city in terms of creative spaces, right? But now there are so many art festivals happening around, and there are so many places that are filled with art. I see a lot of new galleries coming up. So how do you think Dubai has evolved and you have evolved along with this city?
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful question. Dubai is like synonymous with evolution or like transformation. It shifts so quickly. Even in the last 10 years, so much has happened. I don't know how long you have been here.
4.5 years, season one. Season one, and this is my second year in season 2.
Okay. So you have probably seen even in these years, like it's been
pre-COVID and post-COVID, like I can say.
Yeah, so much has shifted even after COVID, right? Dubai recovered very fast. I think for me, I found myself here because it has so many of the similarities to like India. A lot of the beautiful aspects of India are here, like culture, community. It doesn't feel as, independent or alienated as, say, Europe or some other parts of the world. I can go to like Karama, for example, and get like all the local dishes. It doesn't feel like I'm that far away from home. At the same time, there's so much innovation and there's so much multicultural aspects, right? So I feel like by being in Dubai, I'm able to travel to different parts of the world just here. Also, there's a sense of like ease, as I was talking about, in terms of who I am as a person. I'm not constantly like explaining my identity, which I would have had to do in other parts of the world. And I also don't have to answer to, say, like if we're in one specific society, there are set rules and roles and conduct, right? I don't have to explain myself there either. So I can really ask myself, like, who do I want to be? Who does Aditi want to be? What's the highest expression of Aditi? And I can do that in Dubai. And like, there's so much possibility. Like, people are literally building from scratch and so fast here in every industry. So it's also like inspiring just to be around that energy and being like, oh wow, this person I met like 2 years ago has created this amazing business, or they've done this. And it's just wonderful to be in a place like that where like anything is possible.
Very true. And I think this city, this country gives you the feeling that you belong here. Elsewhere you feel like a foreigner going there and living there. Here you kind of own up this place. you think you are part of it, right?
Absolutely.
And you can find your clan, anybody for that matter. I mean, not even in terms of race. If you are an artist, you can find your own clan of artists. If you're a dancer, you can find your own clan of dancers and get your own group of people that you want to be with. So yeah, I love Dubai.
I love Dubai.
Thank you so much, Aditi. It was a wonderful conversation, and we have been following each other on social media for a long time, since my season 1.
Yes.
Yeah, and this is the first time we are meeting and we are having this conversation right in front of the mic.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me. It was lovely.